Did you guys float over or did you guys fly over?
No, we flew. It was like February 2nd, 2003. I flew over there with 211. You know, Mill and I, we took that. What is that? Omni Air out of March Air Force Base. That
Omni Air,
contracting
baby.
Omni Air, and we flew out of there in the middle of the night. Went through. We landed in Bangor, Maine, and I think we did a straight shot from Bangor, Maine into Kuwait, but we could have stopped in Germany or something just to refuel. I forget, but got there in Kuwait and it was morning, and they had these buses for us. At that point, we were pretty early. A lot of units hadn't deployed yet over there, or they were floating over. Whatever the case is, the Army was doing their own thing, and we landed in Kuwait City, and we got on these buses, and they had paper up on the windows. They put paper up, like brown paper, so you couldn't see in, and or we couldn't see out, or whatever the case was. And then we got escorted by U.S. Army. I think they were MPs escorted out to the middle of the desert to a place called LSA 5, and they're all designated by 5th Marines and or RCT 5, Regimental Combat Team 5, will be here, LSA 5, and then there was like a LSA 7, a LSA whatever 2 or whatever the case was. So we hit there, we showed up, they dropped us off, and there was a couple tents and some porta-johns, but that was it. And you kind of drug them and you kind of wait, and then other units started showing up. 1-5 showed up, other 5th Marine units, headquarters units, armored started showing up. Then they started unloading the prepositioned ships from the port there in Kuwait and driving all that equipment out to the desert. We sat there for. Go ahead.
I was going to say, was it you getting there and the buildup? Was it a lot slower than you expected it would be?
No, maybe I didn't think about it like that. I guess I was surprised that there wasn't anybody there when we showed up to LSA 5. There might have been a few tents that were occupied by someone, but we were the biggest unit there for a couple days until 5th Marines proper started showing up, and then you had the other enablers, tanks and LAVs and et cetera started showing up that were going to be part of RCT 5, and then of course the logistics portions. Whatever they call those.
As you guys got this gear and all this stuff, and you're starting to prep, were you like identifying a lot of like, oh man, this is an issue. Were there issues to be ironed out, or were you guys pretty much ready to go?
As an FO, I didn't see that. There might have been on the battery side or the armor side and equipment, but there, once the AAV showed up and we got detached from 211 then attached to 1-5. There might have been issues showing up with the AEVs, but if there was, I didn't hear about it. So we were just there, keeping busy, training, doing that, and just preparing and hoping that it happened. Because back then, we weren't sure it was even going to happen. We thought it might have been a big pump fake. We didn't know what was really going to go on. I think back at the time, the administration at the time had given Saddam Hussein so many hours to get out at some point as they built up. And that was closer to the invasion, but we weren't even sure what we were going to do. We thought we were going to go to sit in the desert for 6 months and then go home.
Be used as a tool for diplomacy.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, when did it become apparent? Like, holy shit, this is going to be real. This is like, was there stacks of artillery rounds, getting loaded up to 11th Marines? Was there?
Yeah, they were everything, just ammo. We started once we got closer in the middle. It was the evening of, I want to say May 9th or March 19th is when we actually invaded. But before then, we were at the LSA 5, and we'd go out for a week or two to go train. And most of it's just patrolling and shooting and just repetitive, training just to keep you sharp. And then we go back. But then at one point, we had a field day, field meet, I guess. It's not the field, not cleaning, but, we had a competition, and there was a, talent show, that type of nonsense. And that next morning, early that next morning, we left to the assault positions. And basically, in the middle of the night, the XO for 1-5 had came in looking for the COs of the companies and the XOs of the companies and pulled them to a meeting. Half an hour later, the XO for Alpha Company 1-5, Nate Scholl, came in and woke everybody up. Get your gear. We're leaving for good. Packed all our gear up, put it in the AVs, in the middle of the night. And we had a couple not lawyers, but reporters attached to us. Gordon Dillo from the Orange County Register, and him and his photographer, putting civilians through this stuff. And he was a Vietnam vet, but the photographer putting civilians through this, they're like, what's going on? We're like, Semper Gumby. We're not really sure. We're going out to we might going out there. We might come back. We don't know. Just get your gear. Let's go. Get in. And middle of the night, we went out there and loaded up and drove for half a day, or stopped for a few hours, slept, drove another half a day, head towards the berm. And
now when you guys were ready to go, when this was getting ready to happen, and it's like, holy shit, okay, this is happening. Did you see any, like, what was the feeling among everyone? I've seen guys getting ready to deploy that, like, almost broke down before they were getting ready to get on the bus, because they're like, holy shit, this is real. Yeah. Do I really want to do this? But they were fine afterwards.
Yeah. Well, it's that's an emotion that's tough to hold. But if there was, we didn't see it, and those Marines kept it to themselves pretty well if they did. However, that a day or so before the actual invasion, they started shooting mortars and scuds at us, and they weren't very accurate. They're still shooting. At that point, we didn't know if it was going to be gas. We all had our MOP suits on. Once you give them the gas sign, we go into the AVs and button up and put all your equipment on. And we're sitting in those AVs in the dark with your mask on, everything, gloves, what is that, MOP 4 or MOP 1? I forget which one is higher, but your full MOP gear up. And MOP gear is the military for chemical. I forget the acronym for MOP, but basically all your chemical suits. And all
I'm trying to think of it.
Like, I don't want to embarrass myself anymore, but
something protective posture.
Yeah, I military operational protective something, some acronym. Like but
all the Seaburn guys out there are like, bastards.
How could you
never listened?
Didn't you go to my class? Come on.
Damn.
But we sat there, and there's a couple guys those two reporters with us. Gordon, he was Vietnam vet. He sucked it up pretty well, but that reporter was like, I can't do this, kind of. And rightfully so. It's claustrophobic. And I tell you, in my own head, I was like, don't freak out, because the Marines, Marines around you, and there, our FO teams, the comm guys, the FIS teams in there, the CO is in the CO hatch and the AV, and it's putting all that gear on there in the dark, and you can barely breathe. And you don't know if you're getting gas because they just shot some scuds that landed 1,000 meters away, or something, or worse, and then maybe shot some mortars, and then you hear artillery going off at the counter battery radar. And it wasn't just a couple guns like they do, in 07 or 08, but this was a battalion fire for effect on kind of battery radar. So it was boom, 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 boom. Just it was really starting to ramp up. Then we're like, shit's getting really fast. And we knew it was. We think it was coming out, and we knew. I was like, we're not coming back. We're staying. At that point, we heard that Saddam had turned down, I think, George Bush's request for them. Okay, you leave. And Uday and Qusay and Saddam was supposed to leave after 24 hours, whatever the case is. I forget the details, but they didn't leave, obviously. And then we feel it. Then we're waiting. Okay, give them the all clear. We're waiting. Some more counter battery. Then artillery started shooting off, even without us being all, mob postured up for whatever they got going on. But they were between us and the berm, shooting into Iraq, and a lot of it. It was pretty impressive. And I'll be honest, I was pretty happy to see that, because when I showed up to Alpha Company 1-5, a lot of people weren't sure. Our artillery can't keep up, or we'd rather have air. Fair enough. And so you're not really sure how any of these are going to operate in war, at least in combat. And and I think at least for the invasion, artillery really stepped up and did it well. And just right there, they were just cracking shells and doing what they needed to do. And there was no waiting. Well, this is unsafe. A lot of that stuff kind of goes out the window. Not safety, but you know how it is. In combat, things change, obviously, and they were really
you stop considering the 0.01% possibility that a round could hit somewhere and maybe hurt someone. You're like, fuck it, shoot over their heads. Fuck it,
especially when they're shooting at you. You're getting counter battery radars popping off on where these Iraqis are shooting 120s at you from, and it's landing relatively close to Marines in the area. So it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's people hate on Artie, but fuck them,